We're going from one of our smallest communities in the country to the biggest, the super city of Auckland. And boy, their new mayor has been getting all sorts of headlines, some of them good, most of them bad from a lefty media. But right now, the councillors of Auckland are in debate. They are in debate over a very important budget plan, which could be the difference for absolutely home-wrecking rate rises, or something people will be able to pay and get the city, or try and get the city less in debt, not out of debt, but less in debt than it is right now. And part of that plan from the new Mayor, Wayne Brown, is to sell the shares, the stake that is in the airport. And the councillors went into a meeting yesterday, I think really good of Wayne Brown. He said, well, let's find out how that meeting was. Let's let one of the participants talk about it. Maurice Williamson is a councillor in Auckland, and he was charged by Wayne Brown with helping running the sort of run up to the budget and doing a line-by-line exercise on how the hell that city could pay its way. He joins us on the line now. Maurice, lovely to have you with us, and thank you very much indeed for your time.
Good to be with you, Sean.
Was it expected this meeting go into a second day?
Oh, look, I expect it to even go into a third and even a fourth day, because there are 20 individuals, all with their own views about it, all got sort of prejudices, myself included, about things that they've held dear for many years, and they're all different. And so unlike Parliament, where you have, two major parties and there are whips, and the whip is called and you vote one way.
You do what you're told.
I cast my vote many times for things that I didn't agree with at all, but that's just what you had to do. It was called dead rat swallowing. You have to get on. Well, you don't have the dead rat swallowing regime there. Everyone's got to vote, and Mayor Brown's just got a real difficult task to try to
and
get
that is, in some ways, the beauty. That's the work of democracy, is to debate ideas and vote and move forward. That's what it's all about. Maurice, in what context are these debates and discussions being held? Is it behind closed doors or out in the open?
No, very open. Media were there filming all day yesterday. The cameras were up and running. Everything was being live streamed out as well, and very open. And I would have to say a very, very good tone to the debate yesterday. There was a fear before we went in there that it would sort of get down to sort of, pistols at 3 paces.
Petty party politics and that sort of stuff.
It didn't. Everybody was prepared to sort of state their views, clearly, and those who disagreed with you listened, and I listened to those whose views I didn't agree with, and there wasn't at any stage, at one point, Mayor Brown had to have a break and have a Kit Kat, but other than that, it was very, very amicable.
All right. Can everyone vote on this, or are there a couple of councillors that have been ruled out because of interest in the airport?
No. We started off with a little bit of that, where all 3 that had declared shares made a statement that they had been in discussion with the legal side of the council. Legal side had been in touch with the Solicitor General, or the Auditor General's office, I think, and that it had been made clear that there was not considered to be a conflict for them to be voting on a big issue for the council, even though they held or spouse had held. And so all 3 of those councillors were entitled to carry on, participate and to vote.
Yeah. There's also been compromise, if you like, from the Mayor. We are now having an argument about not selling all the shares, maybe selling half of them or a percentage. There has been compromise. There is clearly negotiation going on in this process.
Yes. What the Mayor did, he did a little bit of a straw poll. He said, let's just run around the table and tell us what you think. I think the disappointing thing for me was some councillors would not say where they stood. Some were adamant and said, I'm totally in favour. It started off with Councillor Andy Baker, and he said, I am totally in favour and we should be selling them. But we had other councillors who said, well, I'm thinking about this and it's an issue that I'm going to apply my mind to over time. And I thought that was disappointing, because there were others that said, totally opposed to selling airport shares and I'll be voting no. And I'd rather that than the sort of the swampy middle of I can't tell you.
And at the end of the day, you do not need a total consensus here. This is on the majority of votes. It doesn't need to be a super majority or anything else.
Correct. 11 votes wins. There's 20 councillors plus a mayor, so 11 beats 10.
Yeah. Look, I actually think it's a fascinating process because it is democracy and it's being held in the open and it requires compromise. Really, I actually find it fascinating. Fascinating.
Let me tell you about one of the interesting quirks here. In my ward, and you have to know that the ward I represent is bigger than any city in New Zealand other than Wellington and Christchurch. My ward, just my ward, is bigger than any city. It's bigger than Palmerston North, it's bigger than Nelson, it's bigger than Dunedin, it's bigger than Hamilton. Just my ward. I can tell you that I get it in the neck when I'm out walking around or at shops about it. You've got to stop putting those rates up. They've gone up year on year above inflation, which they have, and it's time to stop. And I agree with that. But there are other councillors who say, we don't have it raised with us. No one's worried about rates going up. Rates can go up quite a lot more than we're doing, and it's no problem. So I went and did some research, and I got home ownership percentages by local board across the whole city. There are some areas where home ownership is in the high 80s, and so people really do care about rates, and there are other local boards where home ownership is down in the 30s, and of course they don't care because most people in that ward don't own their own home.
Yeah. And Maurice, would it be fair to say if you sell fewer shares, rates, while not being as high as the increase would be if you didn't sell any shares, there's a compromise, there's a trade-off here?
Correct. If you sold the whole lot of shares, which was Mayor Brown's original proposal, you can keep rates to under inflation. It came in at 4.66%, which is what I favour. And I've argued strongly for it. And the numbers weren't there. He made the judgment call, and he made the right judgment call. Yeah. If he'd put it to a vote, I think you'd have got 7, as far as I could tell, yes, and the rest would have been no. So now he's trying to get us to come back with, let's go to the halfway point, sell half of those shares. Actually, it's slightly under. It's about 42% of them, 43% of the shares. Let's sell them now, and it means that the rate increase will still be inflation or fractionally above 7 points. Who knows what inflation actually will be, but about 7.6 or so.
But your share price could move, Maurice, because, you know, the airport is in the news right now. Qantas and Air New Zealand are getting together saying you buggers are trying to rip us off. There's actually a bit of activity around these shares. We can't say that the quantum of money we're talking about is necessarily fixed.
No, it's not. No, it changes by the day. I saw the share price at $8.81, did some calculations last week, and then last night I think I saw it at $8.74, so it was down, 1 or 2% just within the couple of days I'm trying to do the spreadsheet. And now 1 or 2% doesn't sound like much, but when you're talking of $2.3 billion, it's a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah. So, Maurice, you're back into it. What time do you guys resume today?
We start again at 10 o'clock today. I'm going to make a really wild prediction, which could easily be wrong, but I don't think we'll get to a resolution again today, and I think it'll be a comeback again Monday.
I reckon, I reckon you guys should do your job. Screw you. You should be back on Saturday. You should be meeting till you get your job done.
Yeah, well, look, count me in on that. I didn't want to leave last night. I actually said to the Mayor we just should go right on. I'm used to Parliament. You may have, I'm sure you were around, actually. I remember during the Mother of All Budgets, we went to urgency for 3 nights in a row without actually stopping.
Yeah, that's right. I can actually remember that. That was a hell of a thing.
There's a bit of discipline about people's behaviour when you put that sort of on them, because they stop just talking for the sake of it, and they finally get to the point of, if I want to make a point, I'll make it, but I won't go on and on and on and on. And I just said, let's just keep it running, get some sandwiches sent up, or bring some pizza in. I remember us doing pizzas were being delivered at Parliament at about midnight. And
so, Maurice, where would it be now if you'd had a vote last night on the new proposal for selling half the shares? Where do you think that would have landed out of the 20 votes?
Again, very hard to say. I think it would have. It certainly had more than the 7. Yeah. But my view would it probably would make the 11. However, overnight. People talk, phone calls are being made around the traps. A trading off's going to be happening
Well,
again.
I reckon locking you guys in a room and saying you're not leaving until you've sorted this, that's the way to do it. That puts all sorts of pressure on people.
Yeah, and can I finish with a real? Can I finish with a funny story?
Yeah.
When we were doing all that urgency, Jerry Brownlee was a whip, and he and the junior whip Simon Power went down to the fish and chip shop in Wellington. They got out of the taxi because they were bringing all the fish and chips back for the entire caucus. Jerry walks up to the guy and he says, "I'll have 48 pieces of fish, 64 hot dogs, and better make it $50 worth of chips." And then he turns to Simon Power and said, "And Simon, what are you going to have?"
Well, maybe you need some fish and chips for the weekend or for Friday night. Wouldn't be bad. I think it's fascinating on a number of levels. I wish you and your fellow councillors and colleagues all the best for your deliberations today, and I'm so glad it is being held in an open forum so that those who are elected are accountable for their actions, which is so damn important in democracy. Thank you very much, Maurice.
It is indeed.
Maurice Williamson there, Auckland Councillor. So this was kind of marathon debate, and there has been compromise from Wayne Brown. He hasn't been my way or the highway. They've said now we'll sell half the shares in Auckland Airport. We'll retire $1 billion worth of debt, and it doesn't mean you get a 4.8% rates increase. It'll be higher than that, but we're trying. So I think very, very interesting process going on there. Sure, this text says, surely the shares should be offered to the ratepayers of Auckland, offer the ratepayers an option of paying higher rates and get some shares. Okay, I get you. Please ask the rationale for some councillors wanting to borrow more millions. Don't get it when we're heading into recession. No. Sell all the damn shares. That's from a Pakuranga voter. Sean, will airport shares be put up for open auction or sold to local iwi as part of treaty settlement? Well, actually, they'll hire a firm to sell them. And I think they called for an RFP recommend or something for proposal. A brokerage firm will be selected, and that'll be a contestable process, I would imagine, if this goes ahead. This is interesting text. Sean, do you believe, like I do, that the winners of the election will be minor parties? The major parties don't really have any point of difference apart from being blue or red. I don't think there are winners in an election. Democracy wins an election. You have the outcome of an election. So I'm asking you, dear texter, to change your perception. No single party, apart from the last election, which was a turn-up for the books, wins an election. We get an outcome, and then the government is negotiated between its constituent parties. So the idea of winners, a winner, and everyone else losing, is kind of outdated, and I'd ask you to expand your mind.